Today, you'll learn English with the news. We'll read a news article together on what's happening with the price of oil. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our headline, what on earth is going on with oil prices? So what I've highlighted here, what on earth, these three words are a phrase, and we use this to express surprise, confusion, shock, or disbelief. So you might use this in a context of when you don't know the word for something. You might say, what on earth is the word for this? And maybe you hold up an object like a hammer. You say, what on earth is this? So if you use what on earth, it really emphasizes it. It sounds more dramatic than just saying, what is this? So if you're in your office working and you hear this really loud noise, you might say, what on earth? What on earth was that? Instead of saying, what was that? You just add this as a phrase to add emphasis to confusion, shock, disbelief. So you could say, what is going on with oil prices? But adding what on earth makes it sound more dramatic. So notice here we have going on. This is a phrasal verb, to go on. And in this context, it means happening. So what on earth is happening? And the preposition you need before you identify the noun is with oil prices. Now, we commonly use this phrasal verb for everyday context. So you might ask a coworker, what's going on with the report? What's going on with the conference? Or with a person, what's going on with Jennifer? She hasn't posted a video in days. So you want to know what's happening. What's going on with Jennifer? Now remember, the phrase is to go on with, but here it's conjugated in the present continuous because it's taking place now. You could certainly turn it into a different verb conjugation, what went on with the conference last week, for example, but it's very common to talk about what's happening now. What's going on with Jennifer? She hasn't posted a video in days. Hopefully you don't need to say this. So put keep posting, put keep posting in the comments as encouragement for me to keep posting lessons for you. And don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's learn about what's going on with oil prices. The price of oil rarely makes it into dinner table conversation. So here, dinner table conversation, this just represents a topic that people normally discuss while they're having dinner. So dinner with family or dinner with your roommates, whoever you live with. Now, rarely is an adverb of frequency. And when you see adverbs of frequency, you're going to have the present simple verb tense, and that's what we have here. Rarely is on the lower end of frequency. So usually would be the opposite. Usually makes it into dinner table conversation is something people discuss at dinner while they're having dinner, but rarely is the opposite. Just for fun and just to make this lesson more interactive, to encourage you to practice, why don't you complete this? I rarely Jennifer's videos. Oh, so what could you say that makes logical sense? And that's grammatical. I'm looking forward to reading your replies. I'm sure they'll be very creative. Now, if I wanted to write this a different way, I could say, the price of oil is not something people usually discuss at dinner. Same meaning, different way of communicating it. That is the case in English. There's always a different way of communicating something. And a useful exercise is if you can easily make a change like I did with any sentence. So that's something that you could practice with this lesson PDF as well. Let's keep reading. But over the last 2 weeks, it has dominated. Now, as soon as I saw this over the last 2 weeks, I knew what the next verb tense would be. Did you? Did you know it was going to be the present perfect? It could have been the present perfect continuous if they wanted to show a duration. So it has dominated. Now, it being what? The price of oil. The price of oil has dominated headlines. like the headline we have right here. So if you go on to any news site that you use, oil, 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 you see a lot of it. That means that it has dominated headlines. It's what you've seen frequently on headlines, with huge and unusual rises and falls. So rises, so the price of oil rises, increases. The price of oil falls, decreases. So that's the rises and falls. They're talking about the price of oil, remember. Starting to feel like the new norm. Of course, norm is short for normal, the new normal. But even in headlines or articles, business writing, you will commonly see norm instead of normal. It's the new norm. Learning online is the new norm. Working remotely is the new norm. Using ChatGPT is the new norm. Now, did you notice that all my sentences started with the gerund? Working from home, working remotely, learning online, taking online classes, using ChatGPT. So doing something. The doing represents that you need a gerund. Doing something is because one gerund topic is conjugated as singular. Is the new norm. Now, you could be specific and say in my family, among my team. If you don't add that, it just sounds more like a general statement. Adding that limits it to a specific group. So again, I have a challenge for you. Let's make this more interactive. So you're practicing the vocabulary and concepts that you're learning so they'll be more likely to be added to your permanent memory. So I have a blank here. What for you is the new norm? And again, you want a gerund, doing something. So put that in the comments. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. It is currently trading, so it being oil. Oil is currently trading, so on the stock market, buy and sell, trading over a third higher. So in terms of price, a third higher than before the conflict began. Pushed up, so here, pushed up, I think you can imagine. So push is like this, and then you can push this way, push down, so push up. So if you push something up, it's increasing. So increasing by airstrikes, pushed up. This is the reason why the price of oil has increased, according to this article. Pushed up by airstrikes on shipping and energy infrastructure, and the effective closure of the key Strait of Hormuz. So here, the key, by calling the Strait of Hormuz the key, it means important, critical, vital, the key. Now notice here, when they continue on, a vital waterway. So you could replace vital with a key. Now they've already said key here, so we know it is vital, but you wouldn't repeat the same word twice so closely together. Grammatically, that's fine. It's just not something that's done in writing, in professional writing. You would choose a different word, which is why they use vital. A vital waterway that carries a fifth of global oil supplies. So here, notice they have a third, a fifth. You could replace a with one fifth, one third, but it's very common to use a as well. And numerically, you would have 1/3, 1/5 of global oil supplies. There were wild swings in the price on Monday. So a swing is this. This is the action to swing is what a child does at a playground. The parent can push the child on the swing and the child goes back and forth. So just imagine this is what the price is doing, but it could be this way is up and this way is back, because you don't swing up and down for a child on a swing, but that's the image you can have of the price. And wild intensifies it, because you can have swings that are quite moderate or mild, we could say, but then wild would be extreme or large or intense swings. There were wild swings in the price on Monday, which was described by the BBC's economics editor, Faisal Islam, as the most volatile day of oil trading in history. So this gives you an idea of how wild those swings are and why they use the term wild, which emphasizes it. Now notice here, by the BBC's economics editor, economics. So economics is the field or area of study. So if you're a student, you would say, I'm studying economics. I'm getting my degree in economics. Did you notice that in all cases, you add the S? You don't say economic. It's economics with the S. So it's the study or field. Now, I don't know what Faisal Islam's job title is, but the job title of someone who professionally works in economics is called an economist. An economist. There are many different job titles that you could have, but one of them is economist. Economist. So economics, economist. Notice there's a different syllable stress, which is why I wanted to share that. I added that here for you in the lesson PDF, and also I underlined the syllable stress. Now remember, it's the vowel that you will hear the longest and loudest. Economics, economics, economist, economist. It's the vowel. As the most volatile day of oil trading in history. So the most, you notice the superlative, the most, the most. Let's keep reading. The vast majority. So majority already means the most, but technically a majority is just over 50%. So if there's a vote of 100 people, all you need is 51 people, and then that's the majority, okay? But the vast majority, that could be 80 or 90, 95%. The vast majority of oil is traded for delivery at a future date, says Lindsay James, investment strategist at Quilter. And prices are rising now. So prices of oil, prices are rising because here, this is in the present continuous because it's taking place now. Are rising, and prices is plural, of course. And prices are rising now due to concerns about supplies in the months ahead. So in the months ahead, you could say in the future or in the near future as alternatives. And if you wanted to make it sound even nearer, you could say in the weeks ahead, in the days ahead. So you could use this as a time reference to describe your priorities. So in the weeks ahead, in the days ahead, in the hours ahead, technically you could use different time references there. Just make sure you got the preposition right. It's in, and you need the. In the. And technically you could have it as singular in the month ahead. So that means 30 days. Technically you could. But just know that it is more likely that it's going to be in the plural because you're not being specific about the time reference, and then ahead. This word lets you know in the future, And then here, due to, you could also say because of. So due to something, because of something. And then the something being concerns. Due to sounds a little bit more formal. And then in everyday speech, due to may be too formal. And it might sound a little awkward or unnatural because natives would use because of in everyday speech. But just notice when you have of, because of, or due to, you need a noun. Because of concerns, due to concerns. Now, about is the preposition that belongs to concerns because it's concerns about something, concerns about supplies. Let's keep reading. Before the US and Israeli strikes on Iran, oil had been trading at about $71 a barrel. Okay, so oil had been trading. The past perfect continuous. You don't see this used in speech too often. But when you do need it, it's important to know the sentence structure. So, of course, had, been, these don't change with the subject. And then in this case, because it's the continuous, you have your main verb, trade, in the ing form. And you trade at a price. So the price of oil is trading in the present continuous, is trading at $71 a barrel. Now, a barrel means per barrel. Now, you couldn't replace this with one barrel. You can't say about $71 one barrel. You would have to say per one barrel. But instead of per, you could just say a barrel because in this case, a means per. Remember before, a meant one, okay? So in this context though, it means per. Now they added about before the price, which means approximately. Approximately is the more formal way, and then about is the more casual way. So it could be 71.25, for example. But prices rose sharply. So here we have our verb rise, and then the past simple is rose. And sharply means that it didn't go like this, which would be more gradual, incremental. It went like this. Okay, so that would be a sharp increase, a sharp increase. But prices rose sharply as soon as the conflict began. So as soon as, this means the same time. Conflict began and then prices rose sharply. I'm sure you're comfortable using as soon as, but if you're not, you could say something like to your spouse or friend, as soon as you get home, call me. And then you can reverse those. Call me as soon as you get home. So notice that's in the present simple. Do something. Call me. Call me as soon as you get home. I could also say, call me ASAP, which is also verbalized as ASAP. ASAP, you can say the letters individually, or you can turn it into a word, SAP, and then add A. ASAP, ASAP. Both are common. Probably ASAP is a little more common based on what I hear, but I do hear ASAP enough that it's worth knowing what it means. Now, call me ASAP. What does that mean? And how does it differ from this? Well, ASAP means, say it out loud, as soon as, that one's the same here, possible. So it's not tied to an event. It's not when you get home. It's just as soon as possible. So it means in the near future, as quickly as you can, but it's not tied to an event. So you could say, call me ASAP, but that doesn't mean I'll call you as soon as I get home, because the first one is, of course, more specific. So as soon as the conflict began, and this is in the past simple, of course, because the conflict began in the past. Comments from world leaders have contributed significantly to price fluctuations. Okay, what's a price fluctuation? A price fluctuation is a change in price. Now, that change can be an increase, and a decrease. So if the price fluctuates, it doesn't sound like it's only going up or it's only going down. It sounds like both, fluctuation. I would say the difference between this, and remember, we also learned swings. Swing, you remember pushing your kid on a swing, but imagine that's what the price is doing. I would say to me, fluctuation sounds more neutral. It could be, remember I said that a swing could be more gradual, but it's still doing this constantly. But a fluctuation might be just more gradual. And a swing just seems like it's going up and down more rapidly and more substantially. Let's keep reading. For example, so now, for example, I know they're going to provide an example of how the price changed. And that example is going to be from a world leader. For example, when Qatar's energy minister said he expected all oil and gas exporters. So an exporter is someone who exports. Now you could be speaking about a person, but you could most likely be speaking about a company. So when I say someone who exports, a company that exports. In the Gulf, let me just read this, said he expected all oil and gas exporters in the Gulf to stop production within days. This pushed oil prices to a 2-year high. So remember, we saw pushed up oil prices. So here we just have pushed oil prices because we have the preposition to. Push something to something. So to a high, but they're telling you what type of high. 2-year functions as an adjective, which is why there's no S on year, because adjectives don't have a plural and singular form. Now here, this pushed oil prices. So his comments, that's the this. His comments pushed oil prices. So his comments caused oil prices to increase to a 2-year high. Let's keep reading. But then US President Donald Trump, so again, another world leader, but then US President Donald Trump described the war as very complete. Pretty much. So very complete, pretty much. In spoken English, you might say one thing and then add another thought, but in written English, you have more time to say it precisely. So to say it more precisely, he would probably say as pretty much complete, because complete, you would want to just modify that, and pretty much means almost complete, essentially complete, pretty much complete, as pretty much complete. Raising hopes. So to raise one's hopes means that this statement caused my hope that the war will end quickly, it increased it. So that's what hopes represents, raising hopes. The conflict would not be drawn out. So if you draw something out, it means you cause it to be longer than it needs to be. So in this case, of course, it's a negative. In most cases, it's used as a negative. You might say that movie was great, but the ending was drawn out. So you're saying the ending was longer than it needed to be. So you can use it with just a specific section of something, like the ending of a movie or a section of a presentation or a conference, or you could just use it for the entirety of something. That presentation was drawn out. The entirety was longer than it needed to be. Or this explanation is drawn out longer than it needs to be. And I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. Now notice here, drawn out functions as the adjective. This is important because grammatically you need a verb. Would not be, to be drawn out. And here, the ending was drawn out because this is in the past. So of course you conjugate your verb depending on the subject and time reference. In response, the oil price went into free fall. And by the end of Monday, it had fallen by nearly $30 from the peak seen earlier in the day. So here, perhaps you can understand what go into free fall, because we have went, which is just the past simple of the verb go. So when you're learning new vocabulary, just put it in the base or infinitive form, to go into free fall, because it will help you remember to conjugate that. So perhaps you can understand what this means just based on context. And this will probably help you, because to go into free, well, perhaps this as well, to go into free fall just means to fall significantly. So to fall dramatically or significantly. And it have fallen by nearly $30. So for the price of something, that sounds significant. From the peak. So the peak of a mountain is the highest point. So the peak price is the highest price that it's been. Well, it can be within a time context. It doesn't mean it's been in all time. It could be the peak this month, today. So in here we have earlier in the day. Let's keep reading. We are not yet 2 weeks into the war. This is not the most common way of wording it. We are not yet 2 weeks into the war. So a more common way would be we are only 2 weeks into the war. But using not yet is a more dramatic way of saying it. It emphasizes it more. But you could equally say we are only 2 weeks into the war, or we are barely 2 weeks into the war. Because if you say not yet, it sounds like it's only 1.5 or 1.7 weeks, not 2. Okay, so if I say only 2 weeks, it sounds like 2, but barely 2 weeks sounds like 2 or slightly less than 2. We are not yet 2 weeks into the war between the US, Israel, and Iran. We do not know how long the conflict will last or how significant its impact will be. So this ending is probably suggesting that there's uncertainty, and this uncertainty will likely continue to see the price of oil dominate headlines, which is what they suggested earlier. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. What on earth is going on with oil prices? The price of oil rarely makes it into dinner table conversation, but over the last 2 weeks, it has dominated headlines, with huge and unusual rises and falls starting to feel like the new norm. It is currently trading over a third higher than before the conflict began, pushed up by airstrikes on shipping and energy infrastructure and the effective closure of the key Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway that carries a fifth of global oil supplies. There were wild swings in the price on Monday, which was described by the BBC's economics editor Faisal Islam as the most volatile day of oil trading in history. The vast majority of oil is traded for delivery at a future date, says Lindsay James, investment strategist at Quilter, and prices are rising now due to concerns about supplies in the months ahead. Before the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran, oil had been trading at about $71 a barrel, but prices rose sharply as soon as the conflict began. Comments from world leaders have contributed significantly to price fluctuations. For example, when Qatar's energy minister said he expected all oil and gas exporters in the Gulf to stop production within days, this pushed oil prices to a 2-year high. But then U.S. President Donald Trump described the war as very complete, pretty much, raising hopes the conflict would not be drawn out. In response, the oil price went into free fall, and by the end of Monday, it had fallen by nearly $30 from the peak seen earlier in the day. We are not yet 2 weeks into the war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. We do not know how long the conflict will last or how significant its impact will be. Amazing job with this lesson. Do you want to keep learning English with the news? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.